Hey, Crystal Maiden here, and welcome to the most mind-numbingly boring level in all of Sonic history. Although there are some things that you can do to make it more stimulating, like make it a goal to collect every ring you can and kill every Badnik you can. Although that's not entirely possible because the plane will only go so low. It won't go so down low that's nearly off screen, and the only part of it that you can see is the part that you're standing on. If it did that, then it would be a little better. You could be able to hit more enemies. Like there's no, and those enemies were flying so fast that it was impossible for me to kill both of them at the same time. But yeah, I'm trying as hard as I possibly can to make this level enjoyable, because otherwise I would literally just be standing there and having Sonic play out his idle animation. I guess I appreciate how they tried to make the level less boring. There's a lot of enemies around that will hit you if you just stand still. So there's plenty of stuff for you to do at least, but I still find it pretty boring. And look, even the music does a great job of illustrating just how boring it is. I mean, I get what it's going for. It's a peaceful, happy track to celebrate the fact that you're making your way to the final stretch of the game. I get that, but it's still kind of boring. Sonic's idle animation is kind of cute, to be honest. Look at how small his mouth is and how weird his eyes look when they're looking at his wrists like he's checking the time. Like you haven't noticed by now, Sonic only has one eyeball. And he has the two eyes inside that one eyeball. It's kind of weird. Tails doesn't have that. Most of the Sonic characters do, though. Makes me wonder how exactly the biology that works. The turtles are kind of annoying. If you jump into the fire, then you get hurt. And some parts of it are solid and you can't jump through it. Why did this level have to exist? Really? Why can't you just be taken directly to Death Egg? I haven't explained the story yet. Eggman built the Death Egg, which is a ripoff of the Death Star, in order to threaten the world. That's it. And you have to stand still on the launcher chairs. Oh, I hate that. You don't have enough horizontal momentum. And this is a long stretch of land. So it's hard to resist the temptation to just run ahead. And again, you're on the center of the screen. So you have to react really quickly when obstacles or pits suddenly pop out at you from the right side of the screen. But anyways, when you're dropping off these things, you have barely any horizontal momentum at all. So it's really tense trying to land on stuff that way. Here's a shortcut. I used the wrong fan there. You're supposed to use the bottom fan. And this level doesn't have enough checkpoints. If you just stand still, then you'll die. But yeah, use that fan, and you can go right through it with your invincibility frames, which is pretty awesome. You skip a really large chunk of the level that way. This is a really tense section because if you don't jump on the platforms at exactly the right time, then they'll go inside the walls. Yeah, because there's a speed cap in the air that forces you to not be able to move as fast as you possibly can when you're in the air, you have to let go of the directional pad when you're being launched by those things so you can be launched as far as you possibly can. Which is an incredibly stupid physics quirk, and I'm sure if the game wasn't rushed out for Christmas, they could have fixed that. I mean, seriously, why is there a speed cap in the air? They removed the speed cap for the ground, which is fantastic, but it almost feels like a glitch that the launcher chair just launches you off into the pit. And I hate this song. I really hate this song. Like the trumpets sound horrible to me. And they sound kind of like an unpleasant thing that coming from the body. I don't, you know what I mean? And what purpose do these cranes really what do they contribute positively to level design? I mean, you could have just as easily jumped down here. And yeah, it's really easy to get stuck in this level and not really know how you're supposed to progress. It's like I'm getting sucked in and stuff, and I'm moving around in circles. You should never be moving around in circles lost in a Sonic level. I'm not saying you should just be going right, because that would be a little bit boring if you stop and think about it. But you should never have a point in a Sonic level where you're lost and don't really know where to go to progress. That's bad level design. I don't really like it all that much. Yeah, you have to jump on that thing, and only then will the walls disappear, and then you can see what's inside. I don't know why you couldn't just see what's inside the whole time, but whatever. And the word Eggman is on the ship at various parts of this level. And American kids were really confused because they always knew Eggman as Dr. Robotnik, Dr. Ivo Robotnik, which is a Russian name, but they never really draw that much attention to the fact that Eggman's Russian, because he was born in America, so whatever. It was weird because, like, they call him Eggman here in the airship, and it really confused a lot of American kids. But anyways, this boss fight sucks. This boss fight is really horrible. These platforms can't really be relied on because they've got spikes underneath them, and they're moving all over the place. And you can very easily be moved up to spikes above you when you're standing on top of them. And look, I died there. And it's extremely easy to lose your rings, be unable to get them back, because not only do they fall through the floor, but they also fall through the ceiling. I don't think they should have programmed rings so that they could fall through the floor and you're unable to get them back. Like, it's bad enough that you're trapped in a stun animation and are completely unable to get your rings back until that stun animation ends. But the fact that the rings fall through the floor and through the ceilings is inexcusable. It feels like really bad ring physics, and ironically enough, it gets worse in Sonic 3. This is just an incredibly cheap boss fight because you're supposed to you jump at the laser thing basically from below, and it sends a laser at it that will hit you if you're below. How is that fair in any way? Later Sonic games will have rings in the boss arena itself. So if you lose rings, you're less likely to die because you weren't able to get the rings back. But the classic Sonic games don't do that. You're stuck with the rings that you bring into the boss fight. And the completely inexcusable thing about the final boss fight of this game that renders it completely unplayable and unacceptable to me. You do not have rings going into the boss fight. That alone I can deal with, because the 8-bit Sonic games, or at least the first two anyway, they make you fight the bosses without rings, and I can deal with that. I mean, it punishes even a single mistake, but you can save up a lot of lives. It's easy to grind lives in the 8-bit Sonic games, so you don't have to really worry too much. And the bosses aren't extremely hard, so you're not dying dozens and dozens of times to one boss fight. But this. Okay, first of all, why is Sonic being able to pilot a plane? I mean, the plane is technically belonging to Sonic. It's not actually Tails' plane. But still, how is he able to pilot a plane like that? Tails should have been the one doing that. Yeah, a good way to cheese this fight is to just stand there and get 4 extra hits in. But this boss fight's really annoying because if you hit him at exactly the wrong spot of his head, then you die. And you're supposed to fight him without any rings at all. And you can defeat him really quickly and really easily before he even starts doing this. But it doesn't change the fact that it's very easy to die a whole bunch to him when you're first starting out with him. And there is no checkpoint at all after beating this guy. And no rings after beating this guy. So you have to fight the final boss of Sonic 2 after beating this guy with no rings and no checkpoint after this. So if you die to the final boss, you have to fight Silver Sonic all over again. which is completely enraging and destroys the sense of accomplishment you get from defeating him. And how are you supposed to know exactly what part of the boss you're supposed to jump into? That's my biggest problem with the boss. He's got spikes all over him, and there's an extremely tiny window of his hitbox that you can jump into to damage him. And the rest is just kill zones. And I tried playing this game on emulator and using save states to figure out to jump into him, and the only safe place that I can jump into him from is from behind. And only once, because after that he starts moving forwards, and then trying to jump at him from behind causes you to jump into the jetpacks behind him. So you jump into the fire. Why is there fire behind him too? Really? Why does there have to be so many places where jumping into him kills you? And like, people act like this is a perfect way to cheat this boss. But you die so many times just from trying to jump into him from behind. So fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck this boss. It doesn't deserve to be beaten legitimately. If you can beat it legitimately, you're awesome. I can't. Invincibility code, go. Fuck this boss. I like the music. This is one of my favorite songs in the game, but there's so many different things that can hurt you in this boss. Just give me one ring, and it would be mildly tolerable. Yeah, I know, like, you might be a little disappointed or annoyed with me that I didn't beat the boss legitimately, but fuck it. The boss doesn't deserve to be beaten legitimately. I feel like the bad ending is better than the real ending anyways, because Tails makes himself useful by saving Sonic with his plane. In the good ending, Sonic uses the supersonic form after the extremely difficult boss where it would have come in handy, and he makes Tails saving him completely non-necessary. And really, seriously, really, I couldn't have used Supersonic to fight that extremely difficult boss. Really. Really, game. It's horrible design. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be challenging, like this is an old school game, and back in my day we had really difficult games that were really difficult and pissed people off. And we liked it because of Stockholm Syndrome. No, it doesn't feel like it's trying to be a challenging game. It honestly feels like it's just annoying. It feels like that poorly done game. So Sonic is caught in his plane, and then the credits start, and I love the music of the credits. Like, I really do. But yeah, that was Sonic 2. And what can I say that hasn't already been said? I feel like the enemies are very cheaply placed in every level in the game except for Casino Night Zone, which barely has any enemies in it at all. But even then, going through it is so tedious because of all the stuff moving around directions you don't want to go that it doesn't matter. I feel like not only do the enemies annoy me because they always have projectiles that are badly placed, but just the level design isn't nearly fast enough to compensate for the fact that the platforming is dumbed down and doesn't feel satisfying. And I like Sonic 1 more than this. I like Sonic 3 more than this. I like Sonic CD more than this. I even like Sonic 1 on the Game Gear more than this. And Sonic 2 on the Master System more than this. I admit it, I think this is a bad game. And I honestly don't understand why people love it so much. Because you can't go fast without getting hit by enemies or something like that, and losing rings, and it's so frustrating that it ruins all the sense of fun that you could have had. And I don't think this game is irredeemable. I mean, it looks good. It has some good songs. Like, I like the credits theme for this game, even though it's just a fucking medley and it feels like, oh, let's just mash a whole bunch of songs we already played together. But I think that the songs, they go perfectly together, and they perfectly lead into each other and sound great. I feel like this credits medley, for a medley, sounds fantastic and makes me smile. Makes me kind of nostalgic for a game that I don't even like. There's some trivia I haven't mentioned yet. There are 12 scrapped badniks for this game, including a red T-Rex-like enemy. I think instead of scrapping the badniks and never using them, I think they should use them in future Sonic games. Like, who wouldn't want to see a red T-Rex enemy? Come on. It sounds pretty badass. But he did make a dinosaur-like robot eventually, but it wasn't red. And something I haven't mentioned yet is that the beta of Sonic 2, one of the betas had Sonic crash into walls and he would flatten like a pancake and fall backwards. And they would later use this extremely annoying mechanic in 3D games. And I don't know why they think it's a good idea. Because, what, they think it's funny? Because any humor that could have come from it isn't enough to make up for the annoyance of having, not only, it's bad enough that all of your momentum is completely ruined because you ran into a wall. But now you have to wait there for a few seconds because Sonic decided to sit down and think about what he did. And no, you couldn't just immediately start moving forwards again. Oh no. So thankfully they decided to remove that, because that would have been incredibly annoying, especially in a 2D game. It just sucks that that was one of the only bad things about the game that they decided to remove. I feel like Sonic 3 is where the level design is truly refined to its best. The only real problem I have with Sonic 3 Knuckles as a whole, in terms of level design, is that its levels are too damn long. But other than that, it's perfect. Or Sonic 3 is. I'll be getting to those games later. But there are a lot of Sonic games between Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, ironically enough. So, the next Sonic game I'm going to be tackling is... hold on. Yep, just as I thought. The next Sonic game I'm going to be tackling is Sonic CD. And I think you'll be surprised by what I show off. See you then.